Yeah, I was just like looking at my notes, and so one of the things that we do on Dharma Night is that we explore themes, and the current theme is what is the Sangha, and it's based on a book called What is the Sangha, but also the book comes from a series of talks, and they were given in 1970, and one of the talks that was given by Sangharakshita was a talk that was actually called "Is a Guru Necessary?" And he's actually talking and giving a commentary on a particular sutta, a particular Pali sutta called the Sigalovada Sutta or Sigalaka Sutta. It goes by different names. So the first line in my notes is Sigalovada Sutta, funny. And it is. It's really, really great. And the sort of the most available translation of this particular set of suttas that form the Digha Nikaya is translated by a man called Maurice Walsh, and actually Bhante knew Maurice Walsh. They were acquainted, and I think for a while they were friends even. And Maurice Walsh has a very, very funny turn of phrase, and I just really want to encourage all of you to read the Sigalovada Sutta. One of the things that happens with these suttas is that the translators give the name of the sutta, and usually the name of the sutta, it's named after whoever it is that the Buddha spoke to. So Sigalaka was the person that the Buddha spoke to, but Maurice Walsh has kind of given it as a sort of subtitle, Advice to Lay People. So what happens in the sutta is that Sigalaka is performing ceremonial ablutions. Yeah, so it's a kind of superstitious thing. They're just sort of rituals that he is performing, and the Buddha comes across him. And the Buddha asks, they get into conversation, the Buddha asks him, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm performing ritual ablutions in the 6 directions." And the Buddha says, "Well, why are you doing that?" And he says, "Well, because my father taught me to do that, that's why I'm doing it." And the Buddha says, "Well, do you know the true meaning of these rituals?" And he says, "No." So the Buddha teaches him. Yeah, the Buddha teaches him. And there's a kind of list here. The Buddha says, "Young householder, it is by abandoning the 4 defilements of actions, by not doing evil from the 4 causes, by not following the 6 ways of wasting one's substance, through avoiding these 14 evil ways, that the noble disciple covers the 6 directions, and by such practices become a conqueror of both worlds." So basically, that's how you make progress and how you become enlightened. So then the Buddha kind of expounds what the 4 defilements are, what the 6 ways of wasting one's substance is, and so on and so on. I just really love this particular list, especially the 6 ways of wasting one's substance. Basically, the 6 things that sap your energy are addiction to strong drink and sloth-producing drugs. That's number 1. Haunting the streets at unfitting times. That's 2. Attending fairs is 3. Addicted to gambling is 4. Keeping bad company is 5. And the 6th is habitual idleness. Okay, so I thought I'd tell you a little bit more about, it's hard to choose, isn't it? But I feel like I should just limit myself to one. I thought I'd tell you a little bit more about wasting one's substance by attending fairs. So I think, you know how people think that FOMO is a kind of modern tradition, a modern thing? fear of missing out. It's not a modern thing at all. Like the Buddha discovered it. Well, no, the Buddha doesn't discover it.
Is that true, Danayutta?
No, it's not true. But the Buddha didn't. The Buddha didn't name it and give a teaching on it 2,600 years ago. So he says, there are these 6 dangers attached to frequenting fairs. One is always thinking. One is always thinking, where is the dancing? Where is the singing? Where are they playing music? Where are they reciting? And where is the hand clapping? Where are the drums? So this feeling of there's more excitement somewhere else, is what the Buddha is talking about. Anyway, that's not the bit that Bhante focuses on in his talk. He actually focuses on a different bit, which is how do we protect the 6 directions? And basically, the Buddha starts to talk about one's relationship with other people, and he groups them into 6 different relationships. The first being the relationship with one's parents, the second being the relationships with one's teachers, one's wife and children, friends and companions, servants, workers, and helpers, and then other religious people. And then the Buddha then talks quite a bit about how we should be in relationship in these different areas. So I'll just read to you the bit about teachers. And it's interesting because the Buddha talks about it in both ways for all these relationships. He talks about how a husband might be to a wife and how a wife might be to a husband, how one should be with one's parents and how one's parents should be to you. So there are 5 ways in which pupils should minister to their teachers: by rising to greet them, by waiting on them, by being attentive, by serving them, by mastering the skills they teach. And there are 5 ways in which their teachers, thus ministered to by their pupils, will reciprocate. They will give thorough instruction, make sure they have grasped what they should have duly grasped, give them a thorough grounding in all skills, recommend them to their friends and colleagues, and provide them with security in all directions. In this way, one makes peace and is free from fear. Okay. Yeah. So the word that is used. The word that is used here for teacher is the word guru. I guess in the Indian subcontinent, but also in quite a large part of even Southeast Asia, the word guru just means teacher. So I grew up in Malaysia, educated in Bahasa, and the word guru just means teacher. But I think in spiritual circles, the word guru means a bit more than teacher. So I thought I'd just start off by asking all of you, what do you take from the word guru? What do you understand from the word guru? You might know from your engagement here at the London Buddhist Center, but also maybe just in pop culture. It's a little bit like nirvana. Yeah.
I've heard the phrase that God, Guru and Self are the same.
The Guru and the Self is the same.
Or God, Guru and Self.
The God Guru. God, Guru and Self is the same. Okay, so Guru could be synonymous with God, like a higher power. Also could be synonymous with Self. Anyone else? Also, if you're online, you can just type into the chat. I've got the iPad here, and I can have a look as well. Yeah.
It makes me think of a teacher, but more so like a mentor in all things. You don't just sit down with them for a lesson once a week. They sort of involved in your life in more ways than that.
Yeah. So a teacher who is involved in many aspects of your life, not just particular aspects.
Like a guide.
Like a guide. Yeah. Okay, like a spiritual guide. Good. Anyone else? Yeah.
I tend to think of it in like a more negative concept, like self-help gurus.
Oh yeah.
People who charge like £1,000 an hour
Okay.
for like consultations.
Yeah. So self-styled gurus. And what would be the negative connotations of such gurus?
It's just, like I kind of associate them with like multi-level marketing schemes as well.
Yeah, so multi-level marketing schemes. Yeah, interesting. What do you think would be the danger of those gurus? Like, why is it negative?
I think there's like telling people how to live
Mm-hmm.
and guiding people, and I think it's more they tell than guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference for me.
Yeah. I think that's like that's generally, I think, the problem with ideologies, that they don't work in the particular, or they tend to break down in the particular. Yeah. Cool.
I think in general there's a danger that we don't have ways to evaluate whether someone is competent or not, right? So if someone says he's a guru, I have to trust him. If he has good marketing skills, if he sounds convincing, if he sounds like he knows something,
Yeah.
I can never know for sure where it comes from.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
trust him? Can I?
Yeah.
What is the basis of where he's getting his information from?
Yeah.
Can I rely on it?
Yeah.
And it's because there's a lot of vagueness in
Yes.
spirituality in general.
Yes.
There's a lot of money and marketing and stuff. It becomes difficult to figure out who you should trust and who you shouldn't trust.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think it is quite hard to know if you're in contact with somebody. Are they a genuine guru, or are they just like an Instagram expert, or like a marketing expert, or they just have like a really good spin team? Yeah. Anyone else? Oh yeah.
In shamanic culture, like Native American spaces, there's such a thing as like good shamans and bad shamans. Like bad shaman is like someone who's able to wield the medicine and learn to wield the magic and all that kind of stuff, but they use it for bad things.
Yeah.
For selfish reasons.
Yeah.
So that's another problematic guru.
Yeah, you don't know whether the guru's vision is a good vision or something.
Even if they've learned meditative practices. That's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a mix, right? There's a bit of a mix of responses to the word guru. Sounds like some of you have good connotations with the word guru, and also some of you might be a bit suspicious, or have critical, or have bad connotations, I think for me, just as more personal, but for me, I don't know if I would use the term guru myself. I think partly having grown up in a culture that's not the culture I'm living in, I feel like I don't always know what other people hear when if I said the word guru. I think sometimes we can have a mistaken idea of what is meant. So I think it's quite good that we're spending this evening trying to work out what a guru means. I think my preferred term at the moment is something a bit more like one spiritual teacher. Yeah. So before I say a little bit more, I thought the other thing that is worth basing our exploration on is what sort of practitioner are we? Yeah, I think that will have quite a big effect on how one relates to one's teachers. So traditionally, there are different types of practitioners, and some of us will be faith types, and some of us will be wisdom types. So faith type practitioners really enjoy devotional practices, puja, ritual, chanting. You spend quite a lot of time in doing acts of service. You might spend quite a lot of time reading spiritual biographies. Being in touch with either living people or archetypal figures that inspire a certain kind of devotion. And then there are wisdom types where the sort of personality or the people aren't important. It's more about the truth and getting to the truth. The wisdom types tend to like debating, trying to sort of tease out and to pull apart and to argue and to sort of get into quite a lot of detail about the philosophy, the kind of intricacies of the concepts and the sort of fine differences between different schools of Buddhism. So I would say that generally this is, and probably most of us will be a little bit one type and quite a lot the other. It's not sort of it's not exclusive. Like none of us are exclusively probably faith types or exclusively wisdom types, but one will tend to one or the other. And faith types, I think, do need a bit more contact with teachers. People really inspire faith types, like it's as if their main teacher is in the inner sanctum of the heart. Yeah. And wisdom types might also have teachers, and it is important to be able to hear the Dharma, to hear the truth. But for them, the value doesn't lie so much in the teacher communicating the truth. The value lies in the truth. Yeah, and so teachers may be of less importance. So I wonder if it's worth getting into groups of 3 and maybe spending a little bit of time just trying to work out if you're predominantly a faith type or predominantly a wisdom type. Yeah, and then if you're online again, you can just put that into the chat. Did you manage to work out sort of predominantly, roughly, which type you are? No? Yeah? Do you want to
Yeah, so we were just kind of talking about whether we kind of lie in between both. These two kind of didn't really decide. I feel like I'm potentially more of a faith type, is what I identified in myself.
Why is that?
I think I was talking about like having quite a strong sense of like devotion and kind of needing to connect to nature and the elements and like enjoying things like bowing to the Buddha and like having like getting stuff out of that. And really finding teachers like really valuable. I don't think I really feel the same if I read something in a book as I do to when somebody's kind of telling me and I can like see their example as well, just the way they are. But yeah, we kind of said that we think you need both.
Probably,
all got
yeah.
elements of both.
Yeah, all of us do. And I think like you can move from one to another as well, different times of your own life. Anyone else? Any wisdom types in the room?
I think I'm a bit of a wisdom type.
Oh yeah.
Even when I think about pujas, I'm like, I think something that's still missing for me is like, but why? Or something. Yeah. I guess I want to get to the truth of that for myself.
Yeah. But why is probably a classic wisdom type question. Yeah. Go on. Yeah, you're about to say something.
I'd say wisdom type as well. I really like to question and pick apart, but also find myself really wanting a teacher because I want someone that I can have that discussion and kind of ask those questions to, and have someone who's knowledgeable enough to give a response and maybe point me in the right direction. But I think where the faith practice comes back in for me is that it's nice and grounding, so that you can go out and live in the world and try to find your way and ask these questions, and then you have something to kind of return to center yourself again.
Yeah, great. Anyone else? Yeah, go on.
We were initially talking about how some of us are in the middle, and then we all started debating. So we all agreed it was like more of a wisdom thing.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. You look like you want to say something, Claire.
I'm going to upset everyone.
No, sorry, I was talking to Claire behind you.
I don't think so, but we generally consider the sort of in the middle. Yeah. Or maybe I started as a wisdom type and became more of a faith type as my understanding of everything grew. And I got more involved with things that had to do with faith.
Some time ago I wrote an article on this, wisdom types and faith types, and just reading it back reminded me of, it's good to be able to identify what we are, our sort of like tendencies, our basic shape, partly so that we can, it's important to important to know ourselves to be able to make progress. But I think it's also really worth knowing what the pitfalls of the different types might be. So I think for faith types, you could probably just like work it out for yourself, but just to spell it out for faith types, because they tend to be drawn on by the grace of the Guru, one of the sort of major pitfalls is that for faith types, they put their faith in the wrong person, or a person who's not worthy. And it's very, very easy for faith types to be led astray in that way. And then maybe for intelligent types, I think you touched on it a little bit. Like sometimes it's a kind of like accumulation of knowledge for the sake of knowledge. You just read a lot and know a lot, and the actual application and the actual practice often needs somebody to guide you into that, like a personal contact with somebody who knows you quite well and is willing to get in there with you. And then I think there are also sort of like societal forces. I think there can be sometimes in the West or in more sort of modern society, maybe not even West, but like more modern society can be a bit of an egalitarian society, like everything's got the same value or everyone's got the same value, and then it can be a bit sort of uncool to look upwards and to think that somebody else has it's more developed, more spiritually developed than oneself. I think there can be a tendency in modern society to sort of dampen down on that and think that everything is of the same value. It's a little bit related to cynicism. You just think that devotion of faith is like a little bit credulous or something. Yeah, so I want to spend a little bit of time just saying a little bit about what a guru is not. So, a guru is not a head of a religious group. What's interesting, I was reading this book recently about can't really remember quite what it was called, but it was about sex and romantic relationships between spiritual teachers and their students. And one of the distinctions that it was making is that a spiritual teacher might not be, a minister of religion basically might not be a spiritual teacher. And I think that was an interesting, well, for me, I found that very, very interesting. Bhante talks about it a little bit more clearly in that a religious group is different from a spiritual community. And what we're trying to do here is to be a spiritual community and not merely a group of like-minded people, a sort of religious group. In What is the Sangha, Bhante kind of goes into the difference between the group and the spiritual community quite a lot. Actually, I think we might even have covered it here. So can anyone say what the difference is between the group and the spiritual community? Somebody put mind?
Spiritual community is free associating individuals, whereas a group is you devolve some of your volition to a sort of a group mind or a group mentality.
And what would a group mind, a group mentality be like?
I suppose conventional, according to the rules of the group.
One thought I had is that spiritual community is set up so that the members of the spiritual community grow, whereas a group tends to just perpetuate itself. So a guru is not a head of a religious group, nor do they have to be a teacher. So they may or may not teach, and they have no vested interest in teaching or expounding a particular philosophy. Okay. There's a really nice quote. There's a really nice sutta where the Buddha says, there are lots of other teachers who have a system of thought or a philosophy to teach, but I have none. I have none. I have no view to communicate. I am free of views, liberated from doctrines, emancipated from philosophy. So that's quite striking, isn't it? He's got nothing in a certain way. He's saying, I don't have any philosophy that I want to teach. He's not vested in teaching. So the third thing that the guru is not is that they're not a substitute parent figure. I think that's like laughter of recognition. I remember one of the first few times I met Subhuti, who is the president of the London Buddhist Centre, who was here recently. And I was sitting in this room, I was just like sitting where Jack was sitting. Jack is sitting, I was sitting there. And Subhuti was talking about the Occupy movement. So this was quite a few years ago now. And Occupy had taken over St. Paul's churchyard. And we were sort of talking about it in a bit of a seminar. I believe Kusala Sara was there. And I think I just put my hand up and I just asked Subhuti, can you just tell me what to do? That's what I wanted. I really, really wanted Subhuti to tell me what to do, you know. But that is, well, I suppose me putting him in the place of a parent figure. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But that's not what a guru is. The guru is not a substitute parent figure. Nor are they a problem solver. So one of the ways to know that you're not with a guru is that they try to solve your problems and they give you lots of advice. Actually thinking about my own vertical spiritual friends, like my friend Subhadramati, she rarely gives advice. So rarely that I think she's ever said to me once, I think she said to me, I don't give advice, but this is one thing you shouldn't do. She said, don't move up to Adhisthana, that's just stupid. That was a long time ago. Yeah. So does that make sense? Before I move on, do you have any questions about that? Like what a guru is not, what I've said about that? Yeah?
You mentioned briefly about the link between gurus and romantic sexual relationships, but then didn't come back. So I didn't know if you were going to come back to that later. But if not, my question is, could you say a bit more about that? Because I found that interesting and striking.
I wasn't going to come back to that actually. That was the kind of my mind just like wandering.
And then moved on, but it seemed like a really interesting area.
It was a bit of an American book, and I just found that the sort of first point that they made quite interesting. That I think they were talking about in different spiritual traditions. They're saying that a rabbi might not be a spiritual teacher, or a vicar might not be a spiritual teacher. They could be, but that's not the same as being a spiritual teacher. And I just found that it was just very clearly laid out there. Can't even remember the name of the book now, I'm afraid. Sorry. Yeah. Well, that was the point I was trying to make, not about sex. Sorry. Anyone else? Yeah, go on, Claire.
I was just wondering if a guru didn't so much give advice, what they would do if you had a problem.
Oh yeah. What do you think they might do?
Give you a hug.
Give you a hug. They might give you a hug. But what do you think a guru might do?
I think they would be very clearly present and very clearly listening.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they would ask questions that could lead you to work out stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What you've just done.
What I just done.
Yeah, I was thinking like probing questions and very attentive listening.
Yeah. And why is the attentive listening important?
Partly so that you can ask the right probing questions. Partly because maybe that, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, but I was going to say maybe that then creates an environment where the person speaking can kind of sort it out themselves, like speak themselves out to understand stuff.
Yeah. It's true, isn't it? It's like sometimes we can only really speak if somebody's really listening. Yeah. Yeah. What else?
I was sort of thinking that sometimes I've had the experience where someone's not really interested in my problems, and that in itself is a teaching.
Oh yeah.
Like it's actually, I think my problems are really important and big.
Yeah.
And I've met with someone I thought they're going to be really, and they're just not that bothered. And actually I thought, oh yeah, like it kind of gives you a bit of a perspective of what is important and what's not.
Yeah.
So like, the main thing for me would be that someone actually exemplified how to live.
Yeah.
And that, if you've got something going on, if they empathise in the right way at the right time, that's really valuable.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily always going to be that interested in your problems. Because,
Yeah, that's true. That is really true. I saw Subhadramati recently, and I was just telling her how unwell I felt and how grumpy it was making me. And she just said, I think being slightly ill improves you. You're more relaxed and less intense. Yeah. What would you say, Kuslasara?
What are the qualities of a guru?
No, more that this thing, if they won't solve your problems, like what would they do instead?
I suppose whatever they do, if they're being effective, is helping you to deepen so that your problems aren't, so that your mind isn't on the level of your problems. So the probing questions, or the quality of their attention might be enough to deepen your own experience, enough to give any perspective.
Yeah. That's very, very nice, actually. That's very nice. That's about it says a little bit about what the guru is. Actually, I've got that moves us on nicely, because one of the things that Bhante draws out two things about what the guru actually is, which is somebody who stands on a higher level of consciousness than oneself, who is more evolved, more developed, and more aware. Yeah. And the second thing that Bhante says is that we need to be in regular contact with the guru. It's a great answer, Kuslasar, because if one is in regular contact with somebody who is who has that higher consciousness, that has an effect. That has an effect on our consciousness. Our consciousness can be more expansive, more deep, more loving, more aware. I mean, it might be a bit of an obvious thing, but we do really conform to context. So if we are, as the Buddha says, if we do keep bad company, we will tend to conform to that context. And if we are around people who are more developed, wiser, more loving, more in touch with the real questions in life and not our petty problems, then we will grow in that direction. Yeah. So, I just want to say one more thing, which is about communication with one's teachers. So there's a kind of frequency of communication, but I think what's also important is the quality of the communication and the quality of the contact. I think one of the reasons why the guru or the spiritual teacher may teach or they may not teach is that the contact is existential. Yeah, the contact is at the level of being. And it's at the level of real communication and real interaction. What's important is that the teacher and the disciple are really themselves, are really able to be themselves, which is actually quite a difficult thing. I don't know if you've ever met somebody who you really look up to. My experience of meeting my teachers, especially when the relationship's quite new and I really look up to them, is that it's just a bit embarrassing. I just do this weird fangirl thing. And I just like talk a lot and say a whole lot of stupid things. Recently, I met one of my meditation teachers one-to-one. I wasn't actually expecting to meet him. And I felt really embarrassed by the end of it because I'd spent the whole hour treating him like he was some sort of Dharma Google. Just like asked like loads and loads of questions. And at the end, I just had to say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. He goes, it's okay. It's okay. We've all been there. Yeah. So obviously don't do that when you meet your meditation teacher. One has to be relaxed enough to be oneself, so that real communication can happen. Yeah. Maybe the other thing to draw out is that there's kind of horizontal communication, when we're in real communication and at the horizontal level, we tend to modify each other. So certain people will draw out certain aspects of us, and if we spend quite a lot of time with them, people with different personalities, we tend to become a little bit more like them. You might notice that if you spend a lot of time with certain people, you seem to like laugh like them or make gestures like them. I've got a friend a very, very good friend, and she tends to not so much to practical, but much more to myth. And through my contact with her, I feel a little bit more in touch with mystery and magic myself, and she's a little bit more practical. Yeah. But that's not true of the sort of guru-disciple relationship. The guru doesn't become more like the disciple. The disciple might grow in the direction of the guru, but the guru will also grow. They won't be sort of lowered by the contact. Actually, it's interesting because in tantric circles, it's said that disciples are actually necessary. Yeah, disciples are necessary for growth, especially disciples who are good disciples that really sort of engage with the guru, not just somebody who says yes and does whatever the guru says, but like somebody who actually engages in communication. They're important for growth. Okay. So I just wanted to finish with one more thing, which is about disciples and discipleship. By the way, how many of you actually think of yourself as a disciple? Yeah? Okay, like a handful of people in the room. Okay. Before Bhante died, before Sangharakshita died, he issued quite a number of papers, and one of them was what is the Western Buddhist order, which is what Sri Ratna used to be called. And he said in that paper, the order can be defined as the community of my disciples, and the disciples of my disciples, and the disciples of my disciples, and so on. And that paper, when it was issued, was very, very widely discussed in our order and movement. I don't know about you, actually. For me, I really, really, really like being a disciple. I like being a hearer. I think for me, like, I study and, obviously I love the Pali Canon, but mainly I'm a faith type. Mainly it's contact with my teachers that really draws me on. It's contact with people who are in touch with a vaster consciousness more of the time than I am. That is important for me. So it's really important for me to be on retreat with my teachers. It's really important for me to meet them for coffee. In the past, it's been important for me to live with my teachers. We're very, very lucky to have lived with both the women who ordained me. I definitely feel like it is in relation to my teachers that I grow. So when I'm on retreat or when I'm away, especially if I'm away for long periods of time, when I'm traveling or on a long retreat, I often put up a shrine where I have pictures of my teachers, and my friends as well, but like my teachers, I've got kind of like prime spot on the wall. And I definitely feel like, for me, it's in relation to my teachers that I grow. So I really like being a disciple. I might even go as far as to say that my myth, my sort of Dharma myth, is the myth of the disciple. So after that paper was issued, after there was quite a lot of discussion, Bhante also issued a kind of coda to the paper. And he said, "I have come to think that there is no single term, including the term disciple, that can adequately define all those who share my understanding of the Dharma and follow the practices that flow from that understanding." And basically he said, for some people the word disciple is really, really meaningful, and that's great, keep doing that. And if the word disciple doesn't feel like it applies to you, but you do follow the practices and you are part of the institutions, that's okay too. And I just really love that. I just really, really love that he issued that coda. Because for me, I think what it said is that, like, what's important is that we grow. And what's important is that we grow together. What's important is that we practice together. It's nice looking at your smiling faces. Okay. Actually, what I'd like us to do is just to get back into meditation posture, just to finish the evening. And I suggest what we do with the last 3 minutes of our time together is that we spend a little bit of time just bringing to mind somebody who we feel has helped us grow in a spiritual way, helped us along the path. We might, think of them as our guru, our spiritual teacher. Or we might not. but just somebody who's benefited us, to whom we feel gratitude. Just recollecting them, bringing them to mind. And if you feel metta, if you feel gratitude, just encouraging that to grow. Well, thank you very much. And go well, and see you next week.
Thank you.